Good morning. Welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. Welcome also to this celebration Sunday. You chose to be here, and that we do celebrate. We give an especially warm welcome to our visitors and to those joining the service online for the first time. Now, let's take a few moments to greet those seated around us. If you are joining us online, please say hi in the chat. Thank you. It's good to be together. Announcements? I have an announcement. As you may know, your minister is out on maternity leave. In her absence, many lay volunteers and guest ministers are providing worship leadership. We are finding this time to be fruitful, joyful, and meaningful as we together share in the work of building community and deepening our spiritual lives. Today, our service is being led by a Soul Matters small group facilitated by John Young. John himself will be delivering the sermon. Take a deep breath. John is a retired minister serving Disciples of Christ churches in California and Texas, but here in Kansas City, Community on the Country Club Plaza and Country Club on Ward Parkway, as well as serving in the Greater Kansas City Regional Office. So, welcome, John. For years, John and I dreamed of doing a co-ministry here in Kansas City, but co-leading this worship service is close, and it is gratifying.
I want to live in a friendly world, a friendly world, a friendly world. I want to live in a kind of world that's kind to folks like me. If I run short of a cup of milk and my next door neighbor's in, I want to know that they won't say no to the color of my skin or the church I worship in, or the town from which I came, or my great-grandfather's name. Come Let us join together in worship, celebrating that we're all called to the ideal that we are all created equal.
Good morning. Please stand as you are willing and able for our opening song, I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing. Like to build the world a home and furnish it with love, grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land. I'd like to build the world a home and furnish it with love, grow apple trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. I'd like to hold it in my arms and keep it company. I'd like to see the world for once all standing hand in hand and hear them echo through the hills for peace throughout the land.
As Phil Hannon lights our chalice, we invite you to join us as we recite our covenant. Let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Before Time for All Ages, Emily Stott has an announcement that she wants to share. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. He was looking at me.
We can go ahead and do that.
Sorry, I guess I didn't jump up quick enough earlier. I just wanted to give a quick announcement. So as many of you know, after today I'm making my transition out of SMUUCh as a staff person, but today we are incredibly excited to welcome Haley Chafin, the new office administrator. If you want to give a little wave or stand up. We're super excited to have Haley. I just wanted to thank you all for making this such a great place, and I know that Haley's gonna fit in super well. Just real quick, she's an animator and creative director and was born here in Kansas City. She received her Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Art Institute of Kansas City, and she has a passion for telling stories and making art of all kinds. In her free time, she enjoys gardening, playing board games, and hanging out with her pugs and rescue kittens, AKA her work-from-home assistants. So if you'll join me one more time in welcoming Haley, we're super happy to have you.
Each month, we as a community take time to reflect on a theme. The children do it in their classes, and we do it here in worship, and in our small groups. We typically take these themes from the Soul Matters small group materials. In July and August, the Soul Matters material producers take a couple of months for rest and reflection. So during these months, each Sunday will carry its own individual theme. Today's theme is the soul matter of being inclusive. I have a reflection on that theme, but I will start off with this reading. Our U.S. Declaration of Independence includes the words, "All men are created equal." The historian Joseph Ellis wrote that these words in the Declaration of Independence contain the most potent and consequential words in American history. The passage came to represent a moral standard to which the United States should strive. This view was promoted by Lincoln, who considered the Declaration to be the foundation of his political philosophy and argued that it is a statement of principles through which the United States Constitution should be interpreted. All men are created equal represents a moral standard to which the United States should strive. Our country has not always measured up to that moral standard. There have been improvements, but for many people, true social, political, and economic equality is elusive. Why is that? Here are some questions I asked myself. How does equality for all impact what is best for me, my family, or those I consider to be my group? Are advantages for me important if they come at the expense of others? How does that relate to my self-worth? Is my self-worth dependent on believing that I am doing better than others? Does raising social, political, and economic power for others diminish me? Or does it create more opportunity for all? Does a rising tide float all boats? Should I be jealous of others' success, or should I work to achieve my own version of success as I define it, and to help others achieve success also? I think that 3 of the UU principles that we affirm address these questions, a couple of which you've already heard this morning. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The second, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And the sixth, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. I recently read the book, Poverty by America, written by Matthew Desmond. He argues that poverty persists in this country in large part because it is a side effect of policies that many people like and support. That the more money you have, the more opportunities you have, including more opportunities for financial benefits that are not available to those who are economically disadvantaged. Desmond argues that government policies can impact our perceptions of other people. For example, the perception of tax breaks versus government subsidies. People don't look down on those who get tax deductions for mortgage interest. They don't even consider that as a government subsidy. But often they do look down on those who get Section 8 vouchers for rental housing. And this is even though the mortgage interest deduction costs the federal government more than the rental housing voucher program. The book also discussed how keeping wages low benefits both the people who pay workers and the people who pay for goods and services, but at the expense of the workers. Will I like paying more if wages rise? Probably not, but I should understand that striving toward the moral standard of equality requires it. Do I want low-income housing in my neighborhood? Actually, about 20 years ago, I was part of a neighborhood group that worked with the developers of an adjacent low-income apartment project. The project was completed to the satisfaction of both our neighborhood and the developers. And the city of Shawnee was quite surprised at how well we worked with the developers. And we still live next to those apartments. For me, some keys to the theme of inclusivity are, I don't need to have the world work only to benefit me. My self-worth is not based on if I am doing better than others. And I want to be part of a society that benefits everyone. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite the children who are here to come forward for Time for All Ages. right, welcome. Come close. All right. Raise your hand if you know what a labyrinth is. I know there's more than that because you love labyrinths. That is something I've learned while being here for the last year. We have a labyrinth in our front lawn. And when I Google imaged church labyrinths, a bunch of UU churches popped up. A labyrinth is simply a path towards a center. And they've been around for thousands of years, a part of religious and cultural traditions. Today, they are often used for meditation. And one of my favorite ways to engage in a labyrinth is to focus on finding my center, who I am at my core, as I walk towards the labyrinth center. Meditation helps me open my mind to new ideas and my body to its feelings. I made a labyrinth on the floor today out of duct tape. Let's check it out for a moment. Do I have someone who would like to walk through the labyrinth? Any volunteers? Andre, thank you so much. Now, who could tell me how a labyrinth is different from a maze? Andre, what'd you think? Mm-hmm. Wow. So you used a word that I used. We're on the same wavelength today. So the labyrinth was pretty easy, right? Yeah. A labyrinth is a single path with no dead ends. Labyrinths may be long, but they're not designed to be difficult or confusing. You can't get lost in a labyrinth. You can get lost in a maze. In fact, mazes are designed for people to get lost. And labyrinths can provide a spiritual experience. The cool thing about being a human being is that we will spend our lifetime learning about who we are and our place in this world. And labyrinths are like a path towards understanding who we are. This week, many people in the United States are celebrating the 4th of July, our Independence Day, a holiday celebrating our country's declaration of independence from British rule. This holiday is often associated with words like freedom and independence. I was reflecting on these ideas and how our country still has a long way to go before all people can experience the freedom and independence to be themselves and participate in the world like they want to. Unfortunately, for many people, their path through life often feels more like a maze than a labyrinth. For many Black, brown, and Indigenous people, queer and trans people, and the disabled and neurodivergent, the path towards freedom and independence is full of dead ends and exclusion. But another world is possible. We can create a world where everyone is included and free to follow their own path, a path that feels more like a labyrinth than a maze. But it's going to require all of us to pay attention and recognize when people are excluded and faced with dead ends. So how do we do this? It's actually very simple, but also hard. We start by noticing and asking questions about our environments. like this church, our school, and work. For instance, who is present? Who is not? Why are certain groups present here and others not? What barriers or dead ends might be in place that are excluding some groups of people? How can we remove those? For example, at school, well, in our Missouri and Kansas legislators are obsessed with sports all of a sudden, who can play. Thinking about something that sports is like, who gets to play team sports? Who has access to them? Can everyone play a sport at school and be on a team? If not, why? What barriers are in place that are keep some people who want to participate in sports from participating in them? How can we change our athletic programs so that everyone who can participate, everyone who wants to participate can? When we engage in noticing and questioning, we also learn about ourselves, things that maybe we weren't aware of before. Like maybe we are unconsciously excluding people from our own life's experiences through our choices. Learning about ourselves can be hard, but if we all engage in this work, we can make sure that everyone's life path feels more like a labyrinth than a maze. Thank you. All right. If you want to join me, go to the makerspace. We can walk that way. And if you want to walk through the labyrinth beforehand, you can do that. Thank you.
Good morning. Written in 1940 and released in 1951, This Land Is Your Land was written by Woody Guthrie, somewhat as a critique to Irving Berlin's God Bless America, which was also very popular at the time. Guthrie's songs are famous for calling for justice and the disempowered and exploited, and he first sarcastically called this song God Blessed America for Me, before renaming it to This Land Is Your Land. Actually, two verses at the time people felt were too forward-leaning, too progressive, and so they were excluded from what we all probably learned as kids. But we're including them today, and I've been learning to play the ukulele recently, so I thought this might be a good time to share this song. And since I'm still learning, I asked Emily to help me round out the sound a little bit with her guitar. So the lyrics are on the screen if you'd like to join in with me. This land is your land. Thanks for joining me.
We come to this place to see and to be seen, to teach and to be taught, to hear and be heard. So, reach over and nudge the person sitting next to you. Be aware that we are here together, gathered in peace and authenticity and intention. We come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, I now invite you to come forward and light a candle. You can share what's in your heart or on your mind in 1 or 2 sentences, share with a single word, or you can share in silence and simply light a candle.
I'm Jane O'Neill, and this is my husband, Gene O'Neill. Last Wednesday, we celebrated our 53rd anniversary.
Hi, we are Carla and Bernie Norcott Mahaney. And it's not a competition. Tomorrow we will celebrate the kickoff to our silver anniversary. Tomorrow is our 24th. Okay. You want to say anything about the shirts? Okay. And as you can see on our t-shirts, we are too marvelous for words.
Would you please join with me in speaking these words? We hear your words, we witness your life in all its heaviness and brilliance, and we carry your joys and sorrows in a shared heart. And I light these remaining candles for the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. This would be easier without a trimmer. Let me get my other hand. Oh, thank you. Let us take a moment to come fully into this place. Place your feet flat on the floor. Take a deep breath. We gather with faith in the practice of democracy. We gather with hearts and minds open to the wisdom in every voice among us. With high hopes for the days that lie ahead, we dream of and seek to design a bold future for our nation, where democracy is secure.
I invite you to stay seated in your meditative place and sing with me, if you feel called to, our meditative hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
Our first reading this morning is this. These are the 3 of 7 principles which Unitarian Universalists congregations affirm and promote. Today, let's listen to number 1, number 5, and number 6. We affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We affirm the right of conscience and the use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. We affirm the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. The second reading. This is the proposed 8th principle for Unitarian Universalist churches. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to confirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountability dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions.
Whoop. Albert Schweitzer wrote, "Awakening is about becoming who you are not." Awakening for me is a struggle because at times I'm tempted to be arrogant and judgmental and rude. especially when I want to convince myself and others that I'm not a racist. Look, I've always been nice and friendly to black and brown people. Why can't everybody just love one another and be kind to each other? It seems so simple. As a retired Christian minister, my mind churns with the changes over my lifetime that are challenging me to become who I am not. The truth is, I'm not loving and accepting of everyone outside of my narrow prejudices. Back in the 50s, as a minister in East Texas, our church had a full-time black maid. Her name was Willie. The church paid her 50 cents an hour. Eventually, my wife hired her to clean our house on her day off at 50 cents an hour. Being the kind and loving person I thought I was, I said, Willie, you don't have to call me Reverend Young. Please call me John. After that exchange, Willie never called me anything. Reflecting back on Willie's and my relationship, it was friendly and even fun, lots of laughs. Why was she so comfortable addressing me only as Reverend Young? On the other hand, I never once thought of calling her Miss Newsom. Even though she was more than twice my age, it would have been embarrassing to do so. I would have been laughed at by others. Racism was holding us apart. My awakening to my racism has occurred since joining SMUUCh. When the Black Lives Matter flag flew above our church, I thought, of course, all lives matter, without thinking how black lives have really not mattered much to me. Actually, since then, it hasn't been very easy for me examining my implicit biases. As a child, I now see that my culture was step by step molding me to see black people as being inferior. I remember as a small child staring at the two fountains in the Crest store. One was marked whites only, the other one was marked colored. I wondered what would happen to me if I drank from the fountain that was marked colored. My question was, would my skin turn black? Even in high school, our football coach took our football team to the N-word football game in Sapulpa, a town just 5 miles north of my little town of Kiefer. With absolutely no fear or embarrassment, we walked into that small black high school stadium with laughter and anticipation. We placed ourselves right in the middle of the bleachers. We were there to be entertained and to watch these inferior black teenagers, really children in our minds, try to play the white man's game of football. Even later in Bible college, I was shocked when it was announced that a black girl would be attending our Christian school. My upbringing had led me to believe that God wanted whites and blacks to be separated. Otherwise, he would have created only one race. I considered leaving school. I stayed only because she was to room in the home of the dean of the science college. She was not to live in the girls' dormitory, where my girlfriend lived. That friend, Carolyn, later became my wife, had become friends later on with Lois Mothershed, this black girl. And later, my wife, Carolyn, organized a group to go out in her 1939 Chevrolet for hamburgers, and Lois was invited. I reluctantly agreed to go, and we walked into a small cafe there in Enid, Oklahoma, and the owner would not seat us. My first inkling of abuse toward blacks. Slowly, I am awakening to the fact that I have for 80 years been a racist. Through books, suggestions, and many discussion groups that I have received here at our church, I am discovering why a church maid in the South could not address her employer by his first name. She knew the facts. Black men had been hung in trees for even accidentally brushing against a white woman. She knew the past history, but I was ignorant. I was totally ignorant of our history. I did not even know about the fact that there was a massacre by whites of middle-class black persons and the bombing of their businesses and their homes in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This massacre happened just 13 years before I was born. And I was born 10 miles as the crow flies from this terrible stain on our history. Not once as a child, as a youth, or an adult was I informed of this tragic event. My parents, my aunts, my uncles, my history and civics teachers, my professors in college and seminary all kept this secret from me. But was this unique to Oklahoma only? I was 80 years old before I knew these facts about this Tulsa massacre. Now that I'm 88 years of age, I'm even learning that I have been enjoying living with white privileges. I'm learning that the color of my skin has allowed me in the past to go to schools of my choice. My skin color has allowed me to work in white churches that pay good salaries. My skin color has given me the resources to send my children to white private schools rather than the predominantly black Kansas City, Missouri schools. This was an easy choice. But now I'm seeing it maybe for ill gain. I'm also learning that my skin color has allowed me to buy homes in certain neighborhoods to double and once triple my investments. These investments accumulated to the point that I now can live in Lakeview Village. Now, after my 88th birthday, I am more aware than ever that I want to continue my awakening to become the person that I have not been, a person who is inclusive of others. This is hard work, the work of becoming who I am not. When I am not an inclusive person, not believing that all people deserve to be seen as having worth and dignity, or when I do not practice our country's promise that all people are created and equal, then I must work even harder toward my becoming a more inclusive, far more inclusive with people everywhere. I'm also learning that I cannot do this by myself. Because this church was planted in my path, I am finding help. I'm discovering here that real change that needs to happen is deep within myself. I feel ashamed. My culture has quietly and consistently molded me into being a nice and friendly racist. I'm beginning to see that I am in need of being rewired. And this rewiring is now my spiritual work. The work of leaving behind my culture of being a white male who has loved power and control. And for me, this is a real struggle. But thanks to you, fellow SMUUChers, the struggle seems somewhat manageable. Even though my new fear now is that somehow all of the hours and the mountains of masses of money that you have spent to place this church here with its buildings ready to support others like me could actually fail. Churches of all stripes are failing. The young are not attracted to joining church institutions that they believe have for centuries held back what was needed for healthy outcomes of the planet and of all of our inhabitants. So democracy that we hail, with its message here presented in Johnson County, that all are created equal, can be at risk. And this cannot happen. We cannot let it happen. Unitarians stand for democracy, and this county, this state, and this country must hold on to its democracy. I and others need this church. This church is the spiritual connection that feeds us and nourishes us on our spiritual journey toward inclusion, diversity, and democracy. So may our message of inclusion and diversity and democracy radiate even stronger. Amen and amen. Jody Briley will.
John, that was beautiful. Thank you. This statement is from Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray, President of the Unitarian Universalist Association, regarding protecting and strengthening democracy. We hold this practice of democracy within our denomination and society as sacred. Unitarian Universalists believe that every voice matters and every voice is needed. Unfettered access to the ballot is essential to ensuring every voice is heard. To help realize that vision for American society, over the last several years, we have partnered directly with communities most subject to voter suppression tactics, especially Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color that experience both systemic policies and threats of violent intimidations to prevent them from exercising their constitutional rights. As a leader of a religious denomination that has long supported keeping and protecting democracy, we remain committed in supporting all those who face disproportionate impact from growing anti-democratic authoritarian threats in this country. The UUA is the central organization for the Unitarian Universalist religious movement in the United States. Our faith is diverse and inclusive, and the UUA's 1,000 plus member congregations are committed to the right to choose one's beliefs and respect for the independent nature of all existence.
Well, it's in there someplace. The work of the church depends upon us in a commitment of time, energy, creativity, and yes, our financial resources. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us in our hearts until we are together again.
You will recognize this closing song as a familiar patriotic tune. John came forward to me with this, and we rewrote several of the lines so that they will better reflect our shared you ideals, so we can recover this song for ourselves. So please stand in body or in spirit and sing along once you recognize it. While the storm clouds gather deep within our land, let us come together and stand hand in hand. Let us have compassion and work for our goal as we raise our voices, daring to be bold. Stand with America, land that we love. Stand together for better through the night with the light we all share. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. Stand with America so all can be free. Stand with America, democracy.
Go back into the world which is riven apart with prejudice, arrogance, and pride. Seek to love and understand others more fully. Try to be more sympathetic and tolerant of yourself and others. Squint hard to see in all people brothers and sisters, and return often to be renewed in our journey of finding inclusion beating alive in our hearts. Go in peace.
Shall we go out?